Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining me. In today's discussion, we will be taking a thorough look at the developing weather pattern, focusing on forecast models that are showing an even colder trend ahead. In addition to the cold, the models also indicate a very active storm track along the jet stream, which will create multiple opportunities for snowfall to occur. We are currently anticipating one such event over the Midwest and into the Great Lakes region, and another is beginning to appear for the eastern seaboard, primarily affecting the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, which we are monitoring very carefully. This particular system is still about 6 or 7 days away, so we are watching it with the understanding that there is still time for the forecast to change. Therefore, we are monitoring its development closely. Looking at the broader picture, the forecast models continue to show a pattern of one storm right after another. Now, the specific details of storms beyond 7 to 10 days are not yet reliable, but the larger trend is what's important, and it points toward an active storm track and continued cold temperatures. Now, before we delve deeper into the forecast, let us take a moment to examine what we are currently tracking across the country. We are observing some significant winter weather patterns taking shape, with several storm systems that have the potential to bring substantial snowfall to a number of regions. The forecast models are showing consistent signals for this active weather, especially across the Midwest and the Northeast over the next several days. Let's explore the specifics of what we are seeing on the latest model guidance and on our current radar imagery. We even have a weather artificial intelligence version of me in that community that you can chat with. There are many interesting features for you to explore, so please feel free to check it out today. We would be delighted to have you join us. Now, looking at the current radar imagery that we have been viewing, we can see a rather impactful winter storm already in progress over the Great Lakes and the Midwest. We are observing a great deal of snowfall across this area, behind a cold front where temperatures are in the 20s and 30s for parts of Michigan, Wisconsin, and other neighboring states. There is some quite heavy snowfall occurring in several different areas. We also have some thunderstorms, or rather, mostly showers, but perhaps a few embedded thunderstorms as well. This area of activity over the mid-Atlantic and Northeast is associated with that same cold front as it moves eastward. We have stronger lines of showers located over that region. You might also notice that as this colder air rushes in, it is moving over the warmer waters of the Great Lakes. Consequently, much of this snowfall is being enhanced by what we call lake effect snow. The storm itself is producing snow, and then the lake effect, happening within the storm, is making that snowfall even heavier. There are some areas ahead of the main system where we are already seeing lake effect precipitation. I'm receiving reports that some of the precipitation coming off of Lake Erie is actually falling as snow, even with temperatures in the mid to upper 30s. However, that will transition overnight to mostly pure snow as the lake effect process really begins to intensify. And when we look at Michigan and Wisconsin, the blue shades on the radar indicate very heavy snow. For parts of Michigan and Wisconsin, it is certainly coming down quite heavily out there. So please, let us know what you are seeing. You are also welcome to send in your photographs to our Discord community if you are from these areas. We would very much enjoy seeing your weather pictures. Let us go ahead and turn our attention to the model guidance now and see what is on the way. First, we are looking here at the brand new 8 to 14-day temperature outlook from the National Weather Service and the Climate Prediction Center. This forecast covers the period from December 4th through December 10th. Previously, these outlooks showed a bit of a warm ridge in the southeast. We, including myself, thought this southeast ridge would be a significant feature. I had thought that the southeast ridge was going to be a major factor in the early December timeframe, but the models have since moved away from that idea. They are now indicating that the ridge will hardly be a factor because a surge of Arctic air is coming and is expected to take over. So we now see a primarily warmer western United States, which is a pattern that meteorologists call a positive PNA. This pattern actually helps to steer that colder air down into the eastern states, which we can see taking effect here. There will be a very weak influence from that southeast ridge, and that is why we see the south central and our southeastern areas still dealing with some warmer than average conditions. But overall, the dominant feature will be the cold temperatures in the east, as we are about to see on the forecast models. So let's proceed and take a look at those models, starting with the European model. We can see that current winter storm ongoing there for the Great Lakes. As we move into tomorrow, which is Thanksgiving Day, that storm begins to lift away to the north. It moves farther up into Canada, and what we see happening in its wake is that persistent lake effect snow, just as we discussed while looking at the current radar. This is going to be a major factor for the next few days, as we have very cold air settled over the eastern states. It is going to be a very, very cold Thanksgiving for many. And then for Friday, Black Friday, we will still see lake effect snowfall and that colder air remaining in place across the east. Our next winter storm threat is already beginning to organize, looking to arrive around the Friday to Saturday timeframe. Let's take a look at the timeframe as we begin to see this snowfall starting in the northern Rockies and the northern plains. We also have a low-pressure system developing down near Colorado. That region is a classic area for these types of systems to originate. As we move towards Saturday, we will start to see this develop into a more significant winter storm. We can see the low-pressure system will be located over Kansas and Oklahoma, bringing with it some thunderstorms and possibly even a severe weather threat for folks in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. Then, for the northern plains and much of the Midwest, we are anticipating heavy snowfall. This includes Nebraska, South Dakota, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, Wisconsin, and even into Indiana. The snowfall will be starting as early as Saturday the 29th. And as we head into Sunday morning, around 7 o'clock, we will see very heavy snowfall across northern Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, and also across large portions of Canada. The exact location of this low-pressure system is going to be absolutely crucial. And keep in mind, this is only a few days away now. Perhaps 3 or 4 days from today. At the moment, we are seeing the low situated over the central areas of Illinois and Indiana. If this system tracks a little bit farther south, that line between rain and snow would also move farther south with it. If this low trends to the north, that rain and snow line would move north with it as well. So it is important to note that a small change in the storm's track could completely change the forecast for many areas, especially those in the direct path. If you are in northern Illinois, southern Michigan, or southern Wisconsin, even slight movements of this storm to the north or south can truly change the entire outlook for you. So please keep that in mind, as we are still a few days away. Looking ahead to the end of the weekend, we see this system positioned over Lake Erie, with snowfall beginning to end across parts of the Midwest and Great Lakes. We do see some snowfall for the higher elevations in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast as well. Showers and a chance of thunderstorms will continue to the south as a fresh supply of cold air begins to move in. This brings us to Monday afternoon on December 1st. Now, if you have watched my videos before, you have heard me speak about the southern jet stream. At the same time, our northern jet stream is positioned far to the north. It is moving over a large mass of warm air in the west. This warmth is essentially forcing the jet stream to bulge northward over it, before swinging down to the south and then moving eastward. We also have the southern jet stream in play, and it is coming in right here, just to the south of the northern jet. We can see a pocket of energy forming over Kansas and Oklahoma. We see another piece of energy from the southern jet stream over parts of the Gulf. So we have two distinct areas of energy here, and we expect that they will likely combine. We anticipate that these two will merge and then move off the east coast. And there is growing agreement that a storm will form near the eastern states during the first couple of days of December. So let's watch how this progresses. We see more snowfall possible for Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. For the most part, the southern jet stream takes over as the main source of energy as it gains some steam. It is strengthening over the Gulf, which makes sense because the waters are very warm in those areas. This allows the system to gain intensity, and by following the path of the jet stream, we can tell that the storm will generally start to move northward. As that low-pressure system takes off, we expect some lighter snow for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. This is according to this particular forecast model, on this specific run. The European model has consistently shown a less intense system, tracking it a little farther to the east. You can see just how far offshore this system is. That is well off the east coast. If that low were to track much closer to the coast, and remember, this is still 6 or 7 days away, as I mentioned earlier, there is plenty of time for this track to shift west, east, south, or north. This is just one potential scenario at this point, but if it were closer to the coast, you would see a much more significant snowfall impact, perhaps for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, which is what we are about to see from the American GFS model. For now, this European model shows the storm staying very far offshore. It moves out to sea quite quickly, and then we are left with an overall colder weather pattern. We then see a smaller snow system moving through the Great Lakes and the Northeast during the Wednesday the 3rd and Thursday the 4th timeframe. It appears to be a quick mover, but it could bring more snowfall to the northeastern United States. And then, look at this. We see another system coming together near the southern states. Now, this is quite far out in the forecast, so please take it with a grain of salt. Again, the specifics do not matter too much this far out. This is for Friday the 5th. We see the southern jet and the northern jet combining once again over the deep south as that northern jet stream dips down. The southern jet comes up to meet it, and the two streams come together. There is also plenty of cold air in place just to the north of this setup. As a result, we are seeing some snowfall on the northern end of this system for parts of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley. And as you'll see, we are starting to see snowfall pop up for the Mid-Atlantic as well, almost 10 days from now. So there is plenty of time for many of the details to change. But this suggests another storm system moving along the jet stream that does move up towards the northeast eventually. Then we may see another snow system for the Midwest and Great Lakes around the 8th of the month. Then we begin to see more activity along the coast as that southern jet stream moves up and out over the ocean, while the northern jet stream is also making its way through. Now, the precise details of that are not what is most important. The main takeaway here is that we have a continuous stream of storms traveling along with the jet stream, right where all of this cold air is located. This means there will be several opportunities, I believe, for snow events in the upcoming weather pattern, and the GFS forecast model seems to be in agreement on this point. For instance, if we look at the first system that is currently moving out, it is a very significant system for the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, with the snow line pushed much farther to the south on this particular model run. This means we are seeing much more of Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio being affected, with more of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast also receiving some snowfall. The amounts from that system are expected to be in the light to moderate range. Then, looking ahead, we see the southern and northern jet streams converging right around the 1st and 2nd of December. This could produce a major snowstorm for the East Coast, according to this particular forecast. The low-pressure system is positioned quite a bit closer to the coast, and that is the key difference here, which results in a large portion of the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast receiving a good amount of snowfall. So you can see this is a very different outcome compared to what the European model is showing. And as you may recall, I have spoken quite a bit about the ensemble forecasts recently. While we will not be looking at those today, it is worth mentioning that there is some agreement among them, as they are also positioning a low-pressure system off the East Coast. This tells us there are still some details that need to be worked out. The bigger picture remains clear. There will be cold air, and there will be a storm. Our job, moving forward, is to carefully track how all of these elements will ultimately combine. There is still plenty of time for things to change, but this certainly presents a significant potential for a major weather event. Looking further ahead, we see more activity for the East Coast, this time with a primary low-pressure system developing along the northern jet stream. Now, there is some energy from the southern jet stream, but notice the separation between them. There is a bit of distance between these two pieces of energy, which is why we do not see another fully developed coastal low bringing snow to the East Coast in this scenario. Instead, we get more of an inland low-pressure system, which brings a wintry mix of precipitation to the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, according to this model, followed by very, very cold air. Following that, we see a clipper-type system develop, which is what we call a classic Miller B nor'easter. I mention these from time to time, but the Miller A nor'easter is likely the one that most of you are more familiar with. The Miller A is a storm that originates in the Gulf of Mexico and travels all the way up the East Coast. Our major blizzards often come from those systems, but its smaller counterpart, the Miller B, can also pack quite a punch at times. These systems typically begin as Alberta clippers. As you can see, this one moves down from the Alberta region, traveling southward along the jet stream. Then it tends to move offshore and strengthen as it travels up the coast, usually from a point somewhere in the Mid-Atlantic. This pattern typically brings snowfall to the areas located to the north and west of the storm's track. As a result, the southeast is usually not affected by these events, and sometimes even the Mid-Atlantic is missed. Classically, the most favorable location for snow from a Miller B nor'easter is going to be New England. We can see this system moving through around the 10, 11, or 12-day mark in the forecast. and this particular one is tracking rather far to the south. Because of that track, we see a good portion of the mid-Atlantic and the lower Appalachian Mountains receiving some snowfall. You can also see the storm is positioned well offshore, which means much of the potential snowfall for the northeast remains out over the ocean. This type of weather setup could certainly produce a significant event for the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, even though it does not fully materialize here on this particular model run. It is simply an important possibility to be aware of. Then, we see another system that could potentially affect the eastern states toward the end of the forecast period. So, the overall picture from both forecast models is that they show plenty of cold air in place for nearly the entire time. From now until the 12th of December, there will be a handful of potential snow systems and storms moving through that we will need to monitor closely. It appears we are heading into a very active weather period all of a sudden. Now, if we look at the total precipitation forecast, we can see where that southern jet stream is responsible for bringing a great deal of moisture to the eastern states and much of the deep south. It also looks quite active for the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies. Additionally, for the Midwest, through the Great Lakes and into the Northeast, we also see a lot of activity moving through this region. So that gives you the primary overview of where we expect the most precipitation. In terms of how this compares to normal, we expect mostly above average precipitation along the path of that southern jet stream, as well as for the north-central parts of the United States, with a horseshoe-shaped area of below-average precipitation surrounding it. Turning to the total snowfall forecast, the European model is projecting some rather significant amounts. We see heavy mountain snow out west, which is something we will likely see on every model run from now until March or April. We also see a great deal of snow forecasted for the northern plains, the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, and the interior Northeast. So all of these regions are showing significant snowfall on this European model. There is also some snowfall for portions of the Mid-Atlantic and the Ohio Valley, which is certainly worth noting. But now, let's take a look at the GFS model, folks, because it tells a very different story. For the mountainous west, the story is the same, and it's similar for the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and the Great Lakes as well. Perhaps there is even more snowfall here, but the main point is that the same general areas are seeing a lot of snow. However, for the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast, this is a completely different forecast. This model is showing plowable snow for many of these locations, which just gives you a different perspective on what is possible, within a very active and very cold weather pattern. I want to emphasize that this is a possibility, not yet a certainty. We are looking at what could happen in this particular situation. Now, as we look ahead at the temperatures, the European model is forecasting this Thanksgiving Arctic blast to move through the area. This map shows the conditions for 4 o'clock in the afternoon, Eastern Time, tomorrow on Thanksgiving. We are seeing temperatures well below average in the eastern United States, while it remains quite warm along the west coast. This is a fairly typical pattern for this type of weather system. That cooler air is expected to remain with us through Friday, and it will likely linger into Saturday, the 29th. We may see a brief, slight warm-up along the east coast, but that will be followed by an even more significant push of cold air as we head into the beginning of December. This will affect Monday the 1st, Tuesday the 2nd, and Wednesday the 3rd. It appears that this system will begin to moderate just before our third Arctic blast is set to arrive. That next wave will arrive around the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then we are tracking a fourth one for the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. It appears a 5th Arctic blast may also be on the way after that. As you can see, this indicates a series of very frequent Arctic blasts moving in over the course of the next 15 days. The American GFS model is showing a very similar scenario. We see cool down number 1, followed by number 2, number 3, number 4, and number 5, with a 6th wave potentially arriving on this model around the 12th. The theme is one of continuous cold air moving into the east, with an overall warmer west. The ensemble guidance, which looks at multiple forecast possibilities, is in agreement. This map shows the period from the 27th through the 7th on the European ensemble model, indicating an overall colder picture for the central and eastern states. And the GFS ensemble model shows the same. The pattern is consistent: warmer in the west and colder in the central and eastern regions from the 27th through the 7th. It will be a very cold and a very active period. I look forward to tracking these developments with all of you. We will be providing daily updates right here, and we also discuss the forecast continuously in our Discord server. You can find a link to that in the pinned comment and in the description below this video. With that said, we provide a new forecast every single day, so please be sure to subscribe. You can also select the bell icon to receive daily notifications when we upload, so you never miss one. If you found this video helpful, we would certainly appreciate you liking it. Please feel free to leave a comment down below with your thoughts, and I look forward to seeing you all again in the next video.